This is Vanessa Davis and Lauren Golden, and we are interviewing Mr. C. What is the event?
The event is Operation Uphold Democracy and the United Nations mission in Haiti, which was designed to provide stability for Haiti and provide its first peaceful democratic elections in over 100 years, and I was part of that.
How old were you when the event occurred?
In 1994, when the U.S. sent the 82nd Airborne and some other forces there, I was 24, and then as the initial stability operations came to a close, the United Nations took over. I turned 25 that spring, and so I was 25 and then turned 26 right at the end of the time I was there because of when I deployed.
Okay.
Describe the unfolding of the event or what you remember about it.
So, thank goodness we didn't have a lot of wars during the Clinton administration, when the time that I was a young lieutenant, but we did have lots of instability. There was instability in Africa, Somalia, and that's what happened with the movie Black Hawk Down. We'd had problems in Haiti, we had problems in Bosnia, and the Clinton administration liked to send the military not for military operations, but for peacekeeping operations. And so that's how I wound up getting this. This is my blue beret. That's a beret that you wear when you're with the United Nations. So this was my beret when I was a United Nations peacekeeper, and we had those. And then just like MPs wear special armed guards, they're called brassards, on their shoulder like this. It'd be up here like this, and it would hook onto my uniform. This one is what we all wore if we were on the ground. All countries who were part of the United Nations wore this. So ours had our American flag on top. It had our unit up here on the shoulder, which is the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. And then it had United Nations mission in Haiti and then Special Police. So this, if you girls remember, was one of your hall passes when you had history. That's what that was. So we wore that on our shoulders at all times. So I've got a picture of that to show you. There's a picture of what we looked like when we were on patrol. So I would have looked like this. My men would have looked like this. Can you catch it on there? So
yeah,
there's our blue beret. There's that blue beret we're wearing. Usually though, if we were in the city, we wore blue helmets. So that's another nickname for the United Nations peacekeepers. They're called the blue helmets. And then there's the shoulder thing right here. Okay, see that right there? The exact same one that's right there. And then he's carrying an M16A2 with an M203 grenade launcher, and that's. Some of the guys carried those. Some of the guys that I was with carried those. I carried a 9mm pistol in a shoulder holster that I had made for me. So there was a lot of really skilled people in Haiti, and so some of the officers, we had handmade leather holsters made. So I wore it like I'm talking about a shoulder holster.
Yeah.
So I had tear gas and pepper spray in 2 little spots over here that I could use, and then here I had like a side draw. I carried a 9mm shoulder holster. That's what I carried. So while we were there with this unit. I don't know if you can close in on that, but this is the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, and it's divided into 3 line squadrons. So the regiment is about 4,500 soldiers, and each squadron has about 800 to 1,000 people in it. I was in 2nd Squadron. So when the United Nations mission started, the major ground force was provided by this unit, one of the squadrons, which was 3rd Squadron. And then when they were done with their 6 months, and they did that so they wouldn't have to pay us overseas pay. If you stay less than 180 days, if you stay 179 days, you don't have to get that benefit. So they would deploy us and then yank us back so they wouldn't have to do that. So then they spent almost 6 months there. And 1st Squadron spent almost 6 months there in the summer when it was super, super hot. And then we came in this month. We came in October of 1995.
Wow.
And that was significant. The reason I remember for me was how did that affect me? In October of 1995, we were expecting our 3rd child, Grace. And they made it clear that because I was the 2nd in command for the headquarters unit, and because I had to go first, all the executive officers, all the 2nd commands had to go first and land on the ground and get everything ready for the rest of the troops, that there was going to be no way that I could stay behind, because I was really trying hard to stay behind to see Gracie get one. Yeah. I also had just gotten my letter that I was going to get promoted to captain, so I was trying to get to my next course at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and they wouldn't let me do that. So every day that we got closer and closer to deploying, I was wondering if I was going to see my daughter get born. And this is before FaceTime. This is before we had smartphones. So if you didn't see something, you didn't see it. So Gracie was born on October 5th, 1995. And I got to see her and I got to hold her. And 10 days later, my feet were on the ground in Haiti. So that's what it means for me was I miss Thanksgiving with my family. I miss Christmas with my family.
Wow.
I miss New Year's with my family. I miss Valentine's Day with my girls. I mean, all those things I miss back in a day when we did not have videos.
Yeah.
So when Gracie was born, Gracie had dark hair like your hair is right now, Lauren. And when I came home, there was this little girl that had like auburn. She was like a ginger, and she was playing with Bonnie. And I said, Bonnie, Bonnie, who is? Because I didn't know that her hair had changed. So I said, Bonnie, who's your friend? She said, that's my baby sister. I went, that's what I didn't know that's who that was. I didn't know my own daughter because I hadn't seen that her hair had changed and stuff. So that was hard for me but what we did was really good. So let me explain. So Haiti has been, and is still affected by this, Haiti has had a long line of people who rise up like a savior, like a messiah, and they say, we're going to help the people and we're going to get rid of poverty, and there's all this corruption, and there is, and if you let me take power, then I'm going to help you with that. And then they do, and they don't do anything. They just stay in power. And they say, well, we're going to have elections, and 4 years comes along, and they say, we're not ready yet for elections, and then 8 years comes along, we're still not quite ready yet, and then they stay for life.
Yeah.
And there were 3 sets of these guys, and they were all fathers and sons. So there was Papa Doc, and then Baby Doc. And so when we came in, we pushed out Baby Doc, and he literally stole money from his own country. He basically would be like if the president had an account in the Federal Reserve, he stole millions and millions of dollars and fled to another country. So when we were there, we were going to say, look, you all have to have elections, and they didn't trust elections. So the impact on Haiti was that, first of all, we had to talk with them. So I spoke French, and we had translators, but I didn't have to go on patrol with the translator. We did a lot of patrols to ask people, how's it going? Do you feel safer now? They loved us because they had their police were corrupt. They would go after attractive women and force them to do things. They would force people to give them bribes to protect them. They would, if they didn't like somebody, they would just go into their store and take whatever they wanted. There was a lot of violence, a lot of corruption. They loved us being there. They felt safe. They said, this is the only time we've ever gone out at night. When it turned dark in Haiti, they would literally, everyone would go inside and lock their doors because it was just so dangerous outside. So we would go on patrols at night, and they'd be out there and they'd be dancing and singing. They were so happy to see us. So that we felt good about that. That was a good thing. They had trouble understanding the concept of voting there because when they voted, it was just like taking a census. In other words, they really couldn't vote freely because they couldn't vote secretly. So, like how we go behind and we make our vote. So here's how they voted. So they had always voted with the old system where there's a box for Lauren with her name on it, Lauren, and here's a box for Vanessa with her name on it, and you had to put your ballot in the box so everyone knew, everyone knew exactly who you were voting for. So here would be Baby Doc's box, and he would be the person that was running against him, and they would literally have soldiers standing around there watching what people were doing, and so nobody ever voted against Baby Doc. It's like, oh yeah, I love Baby Doc. So they didn't understand the concept.
Yeah.
So we had to talk with them about that. Well, the guy that had come in was a former Roman Catholic priest, and he was a Marxist, but he was popular, and he was doing the same thing. So I'm just here to get us started, and so we can have free elections. And we said, okay, now that's good, but remember now you can't run because that's the problem we've always run into before. Like it has to be somebody new. Oh yeah, I understand. And so then we would go out in the streets and say, who are you guys voting for? Who are you going to choose? Aristide. No, you can't choose Aristide. That's the guy that you just took place the last guy, Baby Doc. You can't choose him again. You have to choose a new president. Yeah, Aristide. No, you don't. So I was trying to do it in French, trying to do it in English, trying to explain, you can't do that. You'll be back where you were before. So that was really, really hard for us. We thought, this is not going to work at all. We're away from our families. We're away from our friends. We're deployed. Now, we all lived in tents. We didn't live in buildings. We lived in tents. We lived in tents all year long. It was, during the day, it would get up over 100, and we'd have full body armor on. And then at night, it would be cold. So if it got down to 82 at night, I would put a blanket on. Because I just felt like, oh my gosh, 82 is so cold. We didn't have AC. We did have fans. We had rats. Many times I would be working on my laptop and look over, and there'd be a big old fat rat just staring at me like, what, you got a plum? You got a plum? What you doing? I was like, get out of here, rat. So it wasn't great. We did have good food, but it was hot. You know how it's hard to eat when it's hot? We had really good food that the cooks made for us, but it was hot. Yeah. We did have one building that had air conditioning in it. It's where all the computers were for the guys who did military intelligence, so they could contact Washington. So if you ever could take like a message up there, like you would volunteer, like going, we need to take a message that was called the skiff. Oh, I'll take it. I'll take the message, because like you could go in there and hang around in the air conditioning until they got a reply and send it back with you. So that was it. It made me appreciate air conditioning. It made me appreciate hot water, because even when you would take a shower. So what we had was we had real dark black tanks that were painted black, and they would fill them with water in the morning. And so the water would get real warm, okay, until it ran out. So if you did a patrol like late at night, like if your patrol ran from like midnight to 4, when you got back in, you might like start to turn the water on, and it would like flow for like 30 seconds, and you're like drip, drip, like that was it. That's all the water you got. So one of those stories I'm gonna tell you is a really cool story. So your dad probably has these. So this is our unit coin. This is our unit coin for 2nd Cavalry, okay? And all the men were supposed to carry this at all times. And this is the way the rule works. The rule is if you pull the coin out and go ha, and the other person has it and they go ha, then you have to buy them a drink. If you pull the coin out and they don't have it on them, then they have to buy you a drink. So a bunch of our guys were thought, okay, well, I'm gonna do this to the colonel. So they waited until the colonel and we'd all gone on this patrol, and we all got in this big shower like they've got in football stadiums, and we all were taking showers at the same time. And they thought, okay, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna walk up while he's in the shower and go, ha. So they did. They did to the colonel, and they walked up to Colonel Sikorsky, and Colonel Silosky. He went up and he said, "Hey, Colonel," he says, "I got mine." And I thought, because here he is, he's taking a shower, right? Yeah. He put it in his mouth. He knew they were going to do that to him, so he put it in his mouth, and so he spit it out and went, "I got mine too, you owe me a drink."
Oh my goodness.
So cool. And then we won these. So I got all these for different ones. So this one says, you want to hold that up there for Operation Uphold Democracy. That's something that means something to me. Back. Okay. And then we were with the 101st Airborne, and so they made a coin for the both of us. Oh. So this is their symbol, the 101st Airborne. Mm-hmm. That's at Fort Campbell. Hadn't your dad been at Campbell? I don't know if he's been.
So. I don't know.
And then this is ours, and then they made it joint for us together. So we got that, and then this I got from a 2-star general, 2-star, and I got this, and that's a United Nations medal that I got, and he gave me that.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Am I glad we did it? Yes. I mean, I missed a lot of important events, but that was important for Haiti. Now, the bad side is that because we stayed so long, Haiti kind of became like a kid that was spoiled. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, we did everything for them. We trained their police department. We taught them how to do driver's ed. And so when we finally left, it was like they didn't know how to cook. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like if your parents do everything for you. So we wanted to help them, and they needed a lot of help. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Wow. The poorest country. I've never seen anything that poor in my life. We in tents lived better than the people in the city did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from you being there, how do you think it affected America?
One is that, so then when the earthquake happened a few years ago, and y'all were young when that happened, people like knew about Haiti because so many service guys and service women had been there. Like when that earthquake happened, my old wingman, who was another officer, who was the guy who, when I went left, he came behind me and covered me. My old wingman called me that day and said, "Did you watch the news?" I said, "I did." He goes, and the places we were looking at on the screen, like we had been on those, like remember that building and remember this? Oops, I'm so sorry, girls. So sorry. And this is Grace, who was born in October 1995.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Grace. Hey, I'm doing this interview. You can say hi. I was just talking about you because I'm doing an interview about when I went to Haiti and deployed and how you were born right before I left. So you can say hi. Say hi to the interview.
Hi.
Can I call?
Interview.
Yeah, it's for a history project that the students have to do at Northside.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Can I call you back,
Well,
sweetie?
let them know I was super traumatized for those, 6 months or whatever.
Really, who was traumatized? I will say, I'm glad you brought that up. Bonnie. So Bonnie was
Yes.
older. When I came back, so this is what Bonnie remembered. Bonnie said, "No, I love you," and I read before I deployed. I took all their favorite books and I recorded it on a tape recorder. I read them their books at night because I used to read to night, so they would push that and hear my voice. So I said goodbye to Bonnie and went out the door, and then I never came back. So when I came back, Bonnie, I couldn't even go to the bathroom. Like if Bonnie saw me go through a door, she would run up and like open it, make sure, because the last time she remembered me going through a door, I was gone.
Yeah.
So Gracie doesn't remember that. Gracie, I told him the story about how I didn't recognize you because your hair changed from black to auburn.
Yeah, I think you felt worse about it. Like you thought I wasn't going to know you or anything, but I don't think it was a big deal.
Aw.
So,
I
yeah,
was-
y'all go on.
Okay, thanks, sweetie. I'll call you back. I love you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Go ahead and ask that.
Okay. So that. Any other questions?
Yeah. Could or should the event have been avoided, and if so, how?
Definitely should have been avoided. That's one of the best things that we have done as a nation. That's one of the best. Back that up. That's one of the best things we've done as a nation. Not knocking over the phone. But I do wish that we had done more for Haiti. The Haitians still are very angry at us because after they realized what all we did for them, and then we just kind of left. I think they kind of thought, well, you guys are rich. Like you could really help us out here. You could really help us out. Because Haiti's just so. In fact, if I was just to show a picture to you, and I think Mr. Rutledge has done this in his classes. If you look at from a satellite, if you look at Haiti on a satellite view, it's one half of the island. The island is Hispaniola. One half is Haiti. The other half is the Dominican Republic. Almost everyone is the Dominican Republic. You can literally see where the border is because Dominican Republic is all green and has fields and trees and forests. And Haiti looks like it has been bombed. Like all the trees are gone. There's nothing growing. It's very, very poor. The buildings are dilapidated. It's really, really bad.
Wow.
So, if anything, I wish we could have done more.
Yeah.
I wish we could have done more.
Yeah.
And so, whenever I worked a lot with missionaries there, and that helped when I got called into ministry. I was like, okay, I can do this because I volunteer a lot with our chaplain and stuff. So, whenever anyone goes there, like I've got friends from here that go and do medical missions in Haiti, like I can talk with them and I say, anything you can do to help them. So, if anything, I would say that would be like the perfect place if you were ever going to do like a short-term mission trip because it's easy to get to Haiti. You just go down the floor. It's easy to get to Haiti, but it will open your eyes. It will make you thankful for hot water and showers that work and air conditioning and all that stuff. You just take it all for granted. You take it all for granted.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.